In this episode, I want to talk about everything I know up to date on the effects of insulin for weight loss. And this includes people who have already lost a significant amount of weight, are teetering that last little stint of trying to get into the single digit body fat status, and are just looking for that last little push to get them there. And of course, without giving up 100% of your social life, which is everything I preach on my show, and I will not stop until I achieve it, as well as for the rest of you out there. One of the biggest things I've discovered is how important it is not to snack. So if you're interested, stay tuned.
How's it going? This is Brad Williams with Over 40 Fitness Hacks, the podcast where I help you, being over 40, to fight the aging process without giving up your social life. I've been a personal trainer and gym owner for over 14 years, and I specialize in helping the over 40 crowd get to their goals.
If you need a little bit of guidance, check out my show notes. I have a link to schedule a free 15-minute Zoom call, and you can ask all the questions you want.
But enough of that. Let's get on with the episode.
So you've probably heard from time to time that you can't out-train a bad diet. And to some extent, that's true. And to some extent, if you're in your 20s and you're pumping out 7 days a week of weight training, cardio, and supplements, you might have an edge that the rest of us 40-year-olds don't have anymore. So let's just assume you can't. Plus, with everything I talk about, that show is all about efficiency, not only with our diet, but with our workouts. But today I want to talk about more specifically insulin and how important it is, probably as important as getting the right amount of protein levels if you're weight training in order to lose weight efficiently and also to get you closer to your goals. And it might even be to get into single digit body fat. So let's go back to what is insulin. Insulin is a hormone that your body triggers when you eat food. Typically the more sugary, more glucose related food items tend to have a higher impact on that insulin. They call it insulin sensitivity. And when food goes into your stomach, this insulin hormonal response gets triggered. And insulin is what helps nutrients that are in your blood that have already been digested, absorbed, and get to their final destination, wherever that may be. Hopefully in your muscles, hopefully restoring your energy, your organ health, whatnot. Kind of going back to the typical bodybuilder, personal trainer diet, whatever amounts of macros that you believe in, how much carbohydrates versus protein versus fat to do. We can talk about that all day, but I always preach whatever feels good to you is the right diet, as long as your blood work and your doctor and everybody agrees with it and you're seeing the results. But what doesn't matter is when you put food into your body, however much your blood glucose levels elevate, it doesn't matter. The fact that you put food into your body increases your insulin as a response to that food. And that old diet, to be able to get enough protein in your system, we had to break it apart into 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 different meals, hopefully healthy, to give your body the best chance to absorb that protein, put on more muscle mass, raise your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, thus making you more of a fat burning machine because you have more muscle on your body. You just burn more calories now. So what I've learned later in life is the effects of insulin every time you put food in your mouth. And it kind of started down that path when I was checking out those CGM glucose monitors from NutriSense and seeing on the data of every time I had a snack, fruit, lunch, breakfast, dinner, and seeing how my blood glucose levels raised. And the higher those blood glucose levels raised, the longer it would take insulin to calm back down because it had a lot of work to do, right? So that's why the theory is if you have a little bit less carbs if you don't need it, or at least low glycemic carbs, meaning your body can process them really fast, get the nutrients to their destination the quickest. Thus, your blood glucose levels fall faster, your insulin falls faster because there's nothing left in your blood supply, and now you're left in a state of fasting. Let's move on to the state of fasting. There's the tricks of doing intermittent fasting where you crunch all your food time window in 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever you can handle, whatever you and your medical professional have put on you to try safely. And the theory is crunching everything into that tighter window gives you a longer fasting period from the last time you have dinner to the next day when you have breakfast, whenever that may be. And the longer you go, the lower your insulin levels are, and thus your body can start fat burning. Not only that, but the longer you're fasting, you can get into some of the autophagy effects where your body's cleaning out toxins, cholesterol, Some theories say bad bacteria and viruses, whatever you believe on that, you can do your own research. But now tying this all together, using those CGMs, learning what I learned, and also talking to other health experts on insulin specifically. And the one thing I didn't really understand in depth was once insulin is spiked, however long it goes, it does not matter. If insulin is present in your blood supply, your capability of burning fat is completely turned off until that comes down. And that could be a hamburger or a single peanut can shut your system down. And that's how it's supposed to work. But you will not go back to fat burning until that has been processed, your insulin levels come down, and then you begin to have the capability of burning fat depending on your diet. The more low carb you are, I think your body tends to kick back into fat burning gear a little quicker. If you do a lot of carbs, hopefully you're doing a lot of low glycemic carbs, which are the healthier carbs like we were talking about, and your body can drop its insulin levels a little bit faster. And same thing, get kicked into that fat burning gear. So here's what I learned with all this knowledge, and I have now field tested it for a couple months. And that is, instead of taking the 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whenever you decide to do it, but for me, it's breakfast at noon, lunch at 3, and dinner at 6, and then having 2 to 3 snacks all mixed in there. And I've seen great results on that by crunching that time window into 6 hours, 7 hours if I have to. Sometimes it just happens. And one of the reasons I do that too is for someone of my size, I got to get about 200 grams of protein, anywhere from 150 minimum to about 200 grams. And that is so hard to get in 2 meals, 3 meals. That's why you have to split it up. But after doing a little bit more research on the insulin trade-off, meaning every time I'm eating some of those snacks, I'm shutting that fat burning capability once again. And at first I didn't mind because I knew I had my crunched in time window of eating for the 6 to 7 hours. I had 17, 18 hours of fasting to do as much damage as I possibly could. So the theory I tried was taking out those snacks, eating 3 meals a day. That means I'd have to eat about 50, 60, 70 grams of protein per sitting. And I know the body has the capability of processing that. Everyone's different. Everyone's got different enzymes. If you're taking digestive enzymes, that probably helps. Taking protein with other food to help slow down the absorption. That gives you more time to digest a little bit more protein than you think you could. And I think a lot of it is just biohacking your body as well. So for the last 2 months, I did try that. I basically stopped eating 5, 6 meals a day, broke it into 3, 60 to 80 grams per meal, and making sure to have protein, fat, and fiber. Those are my carbohydrates, is the fiber. And, of course, I mix in fruits, a little bit of nuts, all low net carb. But making sure to have that with every single meal to do that, making sure I have a mix of nutrients within that given feeding window, then having a 2 to 3 hour break, and your body can use what it needs. And then you're mimicking that for the next 2 meals. So it's not like I'm eating all protein one meal, then all carbs the next meal, and all fat in the next meal. No, your body, that'd be too much, too overload. And synergistically together, I think your body has a better shot of simulating over a longer period of time and it not just passing through you. Now, doing that way, basically within my 6 to 7 hour time feeding window, gives me more chances in that time to have my insulin levels lowered enough to get into a fat burning mode. So now, in theory, that should amplify what I'm doing on my fasting period. Why not? If your body can assimilate all that food in 3 meals, why are you separating it into 5? So that is what I did for the last 2 months. And I am here to tell you that it is worth it to put it in those 3 meals. I see no losing muscle or gaining fat because of the extra protein in those meals. I'm leaner now with less effort. I'm not as hungry anymore when I had spaced it out over to 5 to 6 meals because you're constantly feeding that stomach. It's getting used to a routine of you giving it something. And I think having to force more protein into each meal slowed down the absorption of that to where it would satisfy me longer. So all these theories make sense. Until you try something for yourself, you don't know. The only worry was that much protein damaging my liver? And I don't think so because I've had this much before and I've had my blood work checked numerous times. My liver enzymes are always perfect. If you're staying hydrated, especially. But the real thing was how I felt, and I felt great. And then, are you putting it on any excess fat because you're eating so much in each meal? Does your body have time to digest it, or is some of it getting stored? And that is not what is happening. So after 2 months of doing it this way, I can see how powerful that insulin response is to hold off on burning more fat as you get closer to your weight goals and not having as much fat to burn to start with. And that's the whole name of the game. Once you get down to a real lean level, you have to fight tooth and nail to get that next 1% body fat change. And that's what I'm here to do. Also, making sure you're doing it right, you're feeling great. You're also worrying about longevity, not just your weight. But when you start treating your body like a well-oiled car and putting it in quality products, giving it ample time to process things and clear things out of your system, everything starts running so much smoother, and you might be surprised at the results you get. So that's a mouthful. I just wanted to put it out there that this is something that I've been working on, and I still have fun on weekends. But now on Mondays, when I go in for my weigh-in, I am way less than where I used to be. And it almost seems like every 2 weeks on that second Friday, I break a new record. And this is with having a social life and partying on the weekends like I always do. So for all you out there, don't give up. Take everything with what I say with a grain of salt. Try things, blend things, make it work for you. But unless you try something, you never really know if it works, right? So that's all I got. As always, in my show notes, I have a clickable link for a free Zoom consultation if you guys ever need some help, and love to hear your story and see if I can't point you in the right direction. If not, thanks for listening, and I'll check you on the next one.
If you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you know that I've moved down here to San Diego, and I'm actually going to be training at one of my local gyms. So in this process, you got to do the Yelp and Google reviews to get some action going. And what I'd like to do is ask my audience if anyone out there would be so gracious enough to leave me a 5-star Google review to help build my local training clients. If you love the show or have had any results from listening, please click on the show notes for my link to get to these Google reviews, as it is hard even to find me by searching for over 40 fitness hacks on Google Maps currently. Thank you once again, and I hope you love the show. If you'd like a little bit of help checking out your diet and your current routine, I'd be happy to help. I always do a free 15-minute Zoom consultation for anyone, no strings attached, just to see if I can help point you in the right direction. So if you're interested, check out the show notes. The link is at the top.